Here we observe Shadow Milk Cookie in a desolate dimensional rift. Notice how he has gone completely delulu. He is desperately seeking to return to the moment he thinks everything started going wrong. So Shadow Milk pulls a classic villain move by traveling back in time to the ritual that Elder Fairy and Silent Salt were using to seal the beast cookies away. Wow. Death Sisters absolutely cooked with this animation. So Shadow Milk Cookie interrupts the ritual and they fight.
Uno reverse.
Shadow Milk Cookie wins and turns the Lord Commander into his own personal puppet minion. And seals Elder Fairy into the tree. This greatly amplifies Shadow Milk Cookie's powers! And just like that, an alternate timeline has been created. Wee woo. The creation of the alternate timeline has triggered alarm bells at the TBD, so Timekeeper Cookie investigates. Timekeeper Cookie tries to warp directly to the source of the timeline split, only to be blocked by a magical veil. So she takes a detour and jumps further down the timeline. In this future timeline, Timekeeper Cookie finds herself in an apocalypse, with no other cookies around. She is forced to face some terrifying monsters, such as a giant fire centipede.
Brother,
And then, Shadow Milk Cookie finds her. They fight. And Timekeeper Cookie barely has time to retreat back to TBD headquarters. When Timekeeper Cookie arrives back at TBD headquarters, the entire place is in a panic. Pandi Campagne also barely managed to make it back to HQ, and Croissant Cookie is still missing. Even worse, other cookies are angry at Timekeeper Cookie because Timekeeper Cookie personally approved Croissant Cookie's highly dangerous mission. But Timekeeper Cookie has no memory of approving this mission, so she quickly deduces that a future version of herself approved this mission and left a message to meet her at the end of time. Trusting her future self's plan, Timekeeper Cookie tells the crew to wait for Croissant Cookie's signal. We then find out exactly what happened to Croissant Cookie. Shadow Milk Cookie has captured her. Shadow Milk Cookie demands that Croissant Cookie build him a time manipulator, otherwise threatening the TBD and her with an eternity of suffering if she refuses. With no other choice, Croissant Cookie gets to work. After the new device is completed, Shadow Milk hands Ash Salt Cookie the time manipulator, along with ultimate dough imbued with his power and memory. Using the time manipulator, Ash Salt takes Croissant Cookie as a hostage and jumps straight into the core timeline to ambush the heroes. Switching over to the main timeline, the cookies are left dealing with a new mystery, a glowing entity called the Light of Solidarity Cookie, who materialized exactly where White Lily vanished. Espresso and Wizard Cookie deduce that the Light of Solidarity Cookie is made out of pure Soul Gem light and exists without any dough. The Light of Solidarity Cookie starts talking, and Ginger Brave realizes he is the only one who can hear her voice. She warns him that her strength is rapidly fading, and she must be taken directly to the first oven, which is the very place where Cookie Kind and the Soul Gem first originated. But right after this warning, Ginger Brave briefly connects with the consciousness of the Ultimate Cookie. The Ultimate Cookie promises Ginger Brave that we will meet again at the first oven. Suddenly, during the meeting, the sky splits open with an ominous sound. Revealing a massive dark pillar and a terrifying eye in the distance. The Soul Jam resonance allows Ash Salt Cookie to track them down. Ash Salt Cookie starts a fight, utilizing her invulnerable ash form to completely bypass the Ancient's legendary weapons. What follows is a chaotic series of trial and error. The heroes repeatedly fail to counter Ash Salt's speed. Pure vanilla shields aren't enough. Dark Cacao's blade completely misses, and Espresso's coffee magic scatters the flying ash salt. Every single mistake ends in the vessel holding the Light of Solidarity cookie shattering, and leads to the total annihilation of the timeline. Fortunately, Timekeeper Cookie intervenes each time by repeatedly rewinding the clock to give the heroes another chance until they force Ash Salt Cookie to retreat. With the intruder gone, Timekeeper Cookie officially introduces herself as the director of the TBD and drops a massive warning. Shadow Milk Cookie didn't just escape, he actively stole the remaining soul gem from the other beasts, and used that massive power to split the core timeline into two. Since the new timeline has more soul gems and only one timeline can exist, this newly created branch is gradually draining the life energy of the main timeline, meaning if they don't stop him, their entire world will soon cease to exist. Don don don! And then we jump back in time, right after the ancient beast cookies were sealed. Elder Fairy Cookie talks to the 5 absolute virtues, which are solidarity, knowledge, change, happiness, and volition, and we learn a lot about what they actually are. Soul Jam is just the name Cookie Kind gave to these virtues, which were originally created by the witches to light up the world. But with the witches gone, the virtues realized they needed new vessels to survive. The virtues chose to split their essence into a good half and a bad half so they could share their strength with Cookie Kind. And to hide the truth of this painful split, the Light of Solidarity came up with a cover story. They would tell the world the witches were the ones who scattered the soul gem to wait for the chosen heroes. That's a wrap for this episode. Make sure to smash the like button. Catch you guys next time!